Welcome to The Creative Influencer, where we discuss all things creative with an emphasis on influencers. The Creative Influencer is hosted by John Pfeiffer. John is an entertainment attorney in Santa Monica, California, who represents influencers and other creatives.
This week's question comes from Paul. John, I read that there is now a new lobbying group for influencers. Why would influencers need a lobbyist? Paul. Well, Paul is correct. There is a new lobbying group representing influencers and creators. Last week, a handful of influencers joined together to launch a trade group called the American Influencer Council, or the AIC for short. The AIC is a not-for-profit membership trade association that provides mentorship and networking for its members, in addition to representing, according to a letter filed with the FTC, quote, the interests and livelihoods of U.S.-based social media influencers across all fields and creative content disciplines. The AIC's mission is, and I'm still quoting here, to advance the art of co-branded content and propel the growth of influencer marketing industry in a globally connected world. Close quote. Those are pretty lofty goals. The AIC, I must say, is arriving to the scene at a good time. The FTC, Federal Trade Commission, is reviewing their endorsement guide for disclosures. So far, the guide has been non-binding. The FTC wants to possibly change that and start fining people who don't make the proper disclosures. Interestingly, the AIC agrees with this. The thinking is that rule breakers are bad for business. Now, the AIC is putting forward a pretty interesting platform. A few of the other policies that the AIC is advocating for are, 1, that ad disclosure techniques, both their language and visual prominence, be standardized across all major social networks. And frankly, it's shocking it already hasn't been. 2, that the FTC review the endorsement guide every 3 years instead of the current 10 years. And insert joke here about the coming and going of TikTok, but that's another issue. And then 3, that the FTC put more resources into educating new influencers about its rules. So why do influencers need a lobbyist? My initial thought was to follow the money and see if there was a larger interest at play behind the scenes, like an ad agency or even a studio. From what I can tell, though, this is not the case, and the group is treated truly in the interest of organizing and focusing the political force of all influencers. As I mentioned, this is an important time for that. The FTC reviewing its ad disclosure rules is just one example. So much is developing in the legal space around influencers that I continue to call it the wild, wild west of entertainment law. So thanks for the email, Paul. We'll be following the AIC closely and keeping you up to date on their work.
That's it for this time. If you enjoyed our podcast, please write a review on iTunes and tell your friends to subscribe. If you have any questions about influencers or suggestions for future episodes, email them to John at Pfeiffer@pfeifferlaw.com. Thank you for listening.